Hello. I come to you today looking tired and exhausted, and it's because I am. I get no sleep. A few nights ago, I awoke to a figure standing in my room. It was 8 feet tall and staring at me the whole time. Its stare had the power to keep me from moving, and I just had to lie there, awake, staring at it, with nothing I could do. But fortunately, I have seen these things before, and I know how to deal with them. And by the end of this video, you will too. Hello everyone, and welcome to Hydra Thoughts. And today, I'm thinking about sleep paralysis demons. You'll see now post-jump scare that I am once again being jump scared by the puppy. Thank you. Now that that's out of the way, we can get back to the recording in the video. So, as you can see, I'm in a different room entirely now. I'm actually in my office, and that's part of why I haven't posted in so long, was I was taking time to work on all this. Got new floors, new fans, new air conditioning, paint, walls, all this setup, everything. So huge effort, took a lot of time. Sorry it's been a while, but I do want to thank you all, because we actually, while I was getting ready to film this, got to 100 subscribers, and I appreciate each and every one of you for subscribing. I appreciate the people who reached out to see when the next video was coming. Your guys' support is awesome, and I can't thank you enough for all the support you've shown me. This is not a sponsor, but before we get started, I do want to shout out a friend of mine, Christian, over at Belly of the Brush. Really cool dude. He has his own small business where he 3D prints miniatures, terrain, and other wargaming tools that you might need for your wargaming needs. So I think you guys should go check that out if you're in any of that. And for a limited time, he's given a discount code, which I get nothing of, but you guys get some savings. So if you go down in the description, you'll see the link for his website and the discount code. So head over, check him out, support him if you can. Thank you. And with that, let's get into the video. Sleep paralysis is an affliction that affects around 20% of the adult population at least once in their life. There are many symptoms that go with it, but the most common ones are feeling unable to move or speak, atonia, a hard time breathing, hallucinations, or seeing and hearing things that aren't really there, like the dog that you didn't hear just bark, chest pressure, a sense of suffocation, feeling separated from yourself or out of body, or feeling in danger. So why are we talking about symptoms of a known psychological issue? Well, it's because these symptoms often coincide with the effects that a sleep paralysis demon has on a person. When the demons appear to people, typically the most common thing that happens is a sense of pressure on their chest and an inability to move, and usually a visual hallucination or a visage of some sort in the room, either on top of them or staring at them. So when this happened to me, I would be laying there unable to move. Usually I would see something else in the room, and one time I heard the thing in the room with me, and that was hands down the most terrifying experience of my life. But we'll get into that a little later. Of the 20% of people who suffer from sleep paralysis, 37% of them hallucinate when they're falling asleep, and another 12% hallucinate when they're waking up. I've only ever seen them when I'm waking up, so you know what that means. I'm in the 12% of 20%. Which means I am better than you. The history of sleep paralysis demons can trace back all the way to 2400 BC in the Sumerian Kings list, where Lithu demons would bear children from nocturnal visits they would pay to men. This is one of the first examples, and a very common example, of these demons being defined as succubuses or vampires, the former being incredibly popular and common for sleep paralysis demons. So when I read this, it only made me think of, oh, so the 2400 BC must have been just like the early 2000s, when there was nothing but the alt, goth, and emo chicks in all the media, and that's why they're having nightmares about them. I'm sure there's more stories specifically about way back then, but this is not a deep dive into the Sumerian sleep paralysis demons. This is a video on overall what they are, so for now we're just going to take this story at the face value. The first recorded clinical definition of sleep paralysis and sleep paralysis demons came from a Dutch physician in 1664, where in one of his case histories, he is quoted as saying the following: "In the nighttime, when she was composing herself to sleep, sometimes she believed the devil lay upon her and held her down. Sometimes that she was choked by a great dog or a thief, lying upon her breast, so that she could hardly speak or breathe. And when she endeavored to throw off the burden, she was not able to stir her members. And while she was in that strife, sometimes with great difficulty, she awoke herself. Sometimes her husband hearing her make a doleful, inarticulate voice. Now, this description only defined it as the devil, but later iterations in the same century specifically called out incubi, which is a male version of the succubus, the ones we saw way back in 2400 BC. These two demons were later included as common occurrences or factors in sleep paralysis episodes of the time. While I was reading that quote, I'm sure you noticed the painting I had fading in, and I'm going to show it again here for you all. That is The Nightmare, painted in 1781 by Henry Fuseli, which depicts an incubus sitting on the chest of a woman as a literal nightmare, that horse that's sticking its head through there, is watching them. The painting made waves at the time, and it was a huge deal because it showed such a terrifying moment in such a sensual and intimate way that it really launched this artist's career. The painting was so popular that he made various versions of it to resell them with much success. The painting also inspired other artists. It is said that Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, where the creature is strangling Victor's wife, that scene was inspired by this painting. There's also a chance that Edgar Allan Poe's The House of Usher, one of the scenes in there, was inspired by this. And I didn't know until I was researching this that The House of Usher on Netflix was based on Edgar Allan Poe work. I thought it was something about the downfall of Usher, because I don't know what's going on in that. I know Diddy's bad, that's about it. No Diddy. So we see that for the last 4,446 years, 4,446 years, that people have been seeing demons when they wake up, and they're typically incubus or succubuses are the most common ones. Other visitors include women, witches, goblins, just general monsters, ghosts, demons. There are so many that if you go deep looking into this, you can actually find a list of all the different ones that appear, and they've even broken it out on some lists by culture and by geographical location, because it does change depending on where you are, what you're going to see during one of these episodes, which is interesting and will be part of my theory that I'm going to explain later. But before we get there, we're going to talk about the most typical ones that you see here in North America. All right, so we mentioned the succubus and incubus, popular, pop up all the time, still popular to this day. Three big specific ones that are seemingly mostly in North America are the Hat Man, some shadow people, or the intruder. The Hat Man is a super common supernatural phenomenon where people are experiencing sleep paralysis to see him standing somewhere in their room, either in the corner of the room or in the door frame staring at them. He's usually pretty tall, he has a fedora or a top hat, and a lot of instances describe him as have glowing red eyes. He's the lovely gentleman I put in the thumbnail. A lot of people think he is a shadow person, and there are a lot of undefined shadow people that people will see during their sleep paralysis. Shadow people are just shadowy figures that you'll see out of the corner of your room. You're never able to really focus on them when you see them, and a lot of people think that they might be an extra dimensional being or some kind of a demon. But the important thing about them is, you know, they're there, you can kind of see them, but you never actually are able to just like get a good bead look at them. On a total side note, I remember when I was younger, because I had sleep problems then, I would lay awake at night and just stare at a toy on the shelf or something, and they would start to move or whatever the longer I stared at them, probably because a mix of things, like I wasn't blinking. But there's a different actual known medical phenomenon where if you stare at something long enough in the dark, it'll start to move because your brain is trying to make sense of the light change, the darkness, what you're looking at. It's trying to kind of fill in the gap so it looks like it's moving. And when I was younger, it didn't terrify me because I thought I had a Toy Story situation on my hands. So after I would see one of my Transformers or something like start to move a little bit like this in the dark, I would stare at it for a while and I go, really? And then I'd get up and go walk over to it, and it's like, oh no, he's still here. It just looked like he moved. But that was unrelated, but really funny. I thought I'd throw it in real quick. The last one, the super common, isn't really one that you can see, although a lot of people say the Hat Man or the shadow people can influence this, but it is the intruder. The intruder is usually somebody in your room that you feel, but you can't see. So I guess he's kind of potentially could be the same thing. It's just an array of what you can see. If you can see them, it's a hat man. If you can't see them, it's a shadow person. And if you can't see them, but could feel them, it's the intruder. The main thing about the intruder is you know he's there and you feel that danger is imminent. So with that, talked about some creatures, talked about a very high level of history. What are we supposed to do with this information? How does that help us with sleep paralysis demons? I'm going to walk you through my personal history with them, and then you'll kind of see where I'm going with this, and you'll probably understand how I feel about them. So the first one that I ever saw was probably between 9 or 10. I remember I was in a 2-story house with my family, and I had the bedroom at the end of a long hallway, and there was another bedroom immediately to the right of my door, and I used to keep the door open a little bit because I was a pansy, fight me. And I was staring at the door because I thought I saw something move, and then I saw a little head peek around the corner, just kind of, you know, one of these numbers, just a little doing that stuff. And I thought it was my brother, so I yelled my brother's name, and then the thing's head came more into focus and it smiled at me. And it was not my brother. It was a really creepy thing. It looked like Gollum to me. I hadn't seen Lord of the Rings at the time, but Gollum is the easiest way to describe him. So of course I scream like a banshee, and I see it take off down the hallway towards my brother's room. So I'm freaking out. So I get up, I run to the door, I throw the door open. I see it running down the hallway, and then it cuts into my brother's room. But as it's doing that, I can also see my parents running from around. They came up the stairs, came around the hallway. They should have seen it, but they did not see anything. And then they just kept running towards me. I'm like, and then they're like, what? I'm like, but you just ran in my brother's room. And they're like, what are you talking about? They go, look, he's fast asleep. He's out. So it wasn't him, and they didn't see anything. So clearly I was just hallucinating. And I think that was my first time that ever happened, but I was just so young. I didn't know what to do with that. I'm like, oh my God, that was a really weird nightmare. That was scary. I hope that doesn't happen again. So I didn't see any that I remember for forever. Later on in my teenage years, I was asleep in my room, and I just woke up at 3 a.m. That was a really weird experience. And I'm just looking straight up, and I see kind of a ball of gas is the easiest way to describe it. It's kind of like a ball of gas, but it also kind of looked like the time cop's head from Rick and Morty. And it was just, there were no eyes, but it felt like it was staring at me. I'm like, wow, that's super weird. I must be hallucinating. And before I could finish thinking hallucinate, it made this noise that sounded just like the earth was opening up, just this horrific roar. And it opened like this, and all of its ruffles and tendrils kind of spread out around it, and it just made this god-awful noise. Freaked me out. I started screaming. I started kicking. I threw my blanket up in the air. I'm kicking my legs, trying to hit whatever it is. And then the blanket just falls down, and there's nothing. I am staring at my ceiling fan. There is nothing. And I wasn't actually staring at the ceiling fan. The ceiling fan's over here. I'm staring at the ceiling fan is over here, so I know I didn't hallucinate the fan being something. But I'm just laying there like, okay. And then my dad comes in the room, and he's like, what happened? What are you okay? I'm like, yeah, no, it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. That was a nightmare. So he goes back to bed. I fall back asleep. But that started me on a rabbit trail. I started digging into what that could have been, and I found sleep paralysis demons. I'm like, oh, okay, this is what I saw. And then I saw, here's all the supernatural things. Here's examples of sleep paralysis demons, and this is what's important here, because that's when I read about the Hatmen and Shadow People. After I read about the Hatmen and the Shadow People, they were almost exclusively the sleep paralysis demon that I would see. This led me to the conclusion that what I was experiencing was not an actual supernatural phenomenon, rather psychological phenomenon influenced by my environment. There are other examples of this happening in the world. Like, I think it is schizophrenics who hear voices in America. The voices are usually much more hostile and aggressive, but in other countries, the voices are jovial and playful. I think where you are in the world impacts what you're going to see when you're having a sleep paralysis episode. One thing that I found that was interesting in research that I'm not going to dive into now because it's going to be a topic for a different video, but a lot of people think that alien abductions may also be sleep paralysis demons. It's just that's what they visualized when it happened. And if you look at the symptoms of sleep paralysis, it can tie in with how real that can feel with the visual and auditory hallucinations. But again, another video, another time. So what do we do? What do we do? How do we fight this? How do we deal with these things? When I was younger, the way I would deal with it is I would see it, it would freak me out, and I would pray about it until I fell back asleep. That was pretty effective for me. Because they are a psychological phenomenon and not anything actually supernatural, anything you can do to find peace for yourself will help you to stop hallucinating. You'll either wake up, you'll fall back asleep, or the hallucination will just stop or go away. The older I've gotten, the easier I've gotten. I still, when I'm scared, I take everything to the Lord because He's my refuge. But when I see them, I saw one the other night. I woke up and looked up. I'm like, oh, the Hat Man. Saw, dude. It's been a minute. Look at you, all big and bad. And I just started giggling and I fell back to sleep on that. So if you see these, nothing to be afraid of, nothing to worry about. It might be scary in the moment, but I promise you're going to be okay. Find your peace, go back to sleep. With that, that's sleep paralysis demons. I think it's just a psychological phenomenon, no supernatural things involved whatsoever, but because of your culture, where you're at, you put supernatural influence on it, which makes it that more terrifying. Just remember, be calm, be cool, find your peace, fall back asleep. Before we go, again, thank you all. We got to 100 subscribers. That's crazy, even though I haven't posted in... Don't want to talk about it. Again, thank you all so much. I hope you all go check out Belly of the Brush. Christian's awesome. He does some awesome work. You'll enjoy the quality of his minis. They're great. Again, not sponsored. Shouting out a friend because he's my boy. And with that, hope you have a good night and sleep tight.